Automations are driving less than 10% of the volume in terms of email sends, but drive over 50% of the conversions. Paying 40K a year for a platform is more scrutinized than spending millions of dollars a year on Facebook ads.
What's going on with creatives? Why does it suck?
What's really difficult is how do you actually translate the strategy into the final creative that you actually envisioned?
What is your ideal scenario?
My ideal situation would be to give everything on brand to AI and build an individual journey for users along the way that's dynamic across their first acquisition, across post-purchase series, across re-engagement. I don't know if we're there yet.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the AI Marketer Podcast. I'm Neha Mittal, founder of Just Words, and we're back again with real stories, real results, and no fluff. Today, I'm very, very excited to welcome Pham on our show. He's the co-founder of VERBOSE Marketing, a transformative lifecycle marketing agency born from experiences in brands like Peloton and Casper, and we'll share all about it in a second. What I'm really excited about today is our focus on creatives in marketing automation. It's a topic that I'm personally passionate about. And it's not just about making assets faster, but also rethinking how they're getting generated, tested, and also evolved over time. So excited to have you, Fee.
Yeah, super excited to be here as well. A little bit background on myself. So I've been in lifecycle marketing my entire career. It wasn't called lifecycle marketing, 10 plus years ago. It was only email marketing at that point, which was the only channel. I joined a company right out of college called Zulily. It's where I met Carlos, who's my co-founder at VERBOSE. He was my first manager out of college, but he was managing the email program there.
Yeah.
They did dynamic emails one-to-one for each individual user, which at that time I thought was standard to have a dedicated data science team of 5 people. But when I left Zulily, did I learn quick that that's actually not, and it's actually really hard to do. Even I feel like even now today, 10 years later, it's still quite a manual and robust process to do personalization.
Mhm.
And but from there, I was sick and tired of the Seattle gray and rain, was born and raised there. And so I needed to leave. And so I packed a suitcase and moved to New York, joined Casper when it was less than 2 years old, I believe. Learned a lot about leveraging a fun brand to drive loyalty, referral programs, and driving more activations for mattresses there. But also in parallel, how do we actually increase LTV with long shift go to market of new lower AOV products like the pillows, the sheets, and things like that. So a lot more of the retention side of things, I would say, when it comes to life cycle. And as you can see now, things are starting to shape up more than just email marketing to be more a little bit comprehensive of like what is someone's journey with a brand in their life cycle. Um, was there for about 3 years and then caught the startup bug, and I joined a small startup called 30 Madison,
Yeah.
which was one of the first telehealth companies to really enter the market. I was employee number 10 there, so a true startup, really built the lifecycle program from scratch and just learned so much about scaling a product and starting from zero. But I wanted one more brand on my resume. So I joined Peloton, where I was purely joining the lifecycle strategy team, which is really unique. I think with Peloton, the hardware AOV is such a high AOV. And so the lifecycle to purchase is a lot longer. And so we leveraged lifecycle marketing pretty heavily, and it was really ingrained into the full product experience. And I already even mentioned the introduction of the new business model, subscription model, that was incremental tens of millions of dollars a year.
Wow.
Um, and then started Verbose. I knocked on Carlos's door, and I think it was just a good time for us to start. We started Verbose kind of based off of our experiences in the past, where a lot of life cycle specifically, I would say agencies were very transactional, very arm's length apart from the core team. At Peloton, we had an agency that only did creative for us, didn't do any strategy, didn't do any production hands-on keyboard. And so Carlos and I, as in-house marketers, our entire career wanted to create an agency that could replicate the in-house model for our clients. And so we started Verbose, and now we are embedded across 20 plus clients. We're a team of 20 plus people across strategy, creative, and production. But our main focus and core is being embedded as strategists so that we can work cross functionally across the data teams, the marketing teams, the creative teams, all the teams that you really need to have buy-in on when it comes to running a life cycle program. And so that's the short but long kind of story about myself.
Yeah, this is so interesting because I feel like you're one of the few people who would have perspective on history of life cycle as you think about the
See,
future of life cycle, right?
I
Uh,
know.
yeah.
And we're fortunate because I think in digital marketing specifically, it moves so rapidly, but I feel like we're at that inflection point, similar to how there was the inflection point of adding new channels like SMS, push, and then the next inflection point of subscription model and retention and churn. I think we're at another inflection point with AI, and that's why I'm really excited to chat with you today.
I'm very curious to hear about inflection points. So let's pick a different one, not AI, that happened in the past
Yeah,
in the last 10 years or so. What did it feel like? What was before and after? Do you have a specific memory of this was the before of email marketing or lifecycle marketing, and after this inflection, a couple years in, here's what it looked like.
I'd say the first thing that pops to my mind was the inflection point of adding in journey builders
Mm,
into the marketing tech stack. As literally, that was my time and era where Braze wasn't, I don't think Braze was around yet. Iterable wasn't around
yep,
yet, which is like
yep.
kind of, they were the forefront of creating these journey builders, orchestration to actually curate someone's customer journey with the brand. But before that, as literally, it was just, we built an in-house tech tool that was in-house tech stack that basically leveraged, I believe it was SendGrid or one of those platforms
Yeah.
that sent out the email, but it was just batch campaigns for us and
Mhm.
curated journeys by kind of more segmentation based. So we would set the criterias, we would know that this is who we want to send it out to, and then it would trigger the message as more of a transactional message out to the users. And then we had our daily batch campaigns that went out that was automated and built into our own tech stack. But it wasn't ever orchestrated. It was more like we need to keep track of everything individually and
Mhm.
have this long list of transactional triggers that we knew went out during the specific point of time in the life cycle.
So it's all like very manual, everything that you have to audit, you have to keep track of things. I cannot imagine that part now that we're in this automated.
Not that it's not fragmented today, because we have
Sure.
sometimes hundreds of journeys live at a time, right?
Yeah.
But it does enable us to be a little bit more organized in a way that we can kick off a journey with a specific segment and build their journey there. But I
Mm.
do think in the future, if we're talking about future inflection points, journey builders might not even be a thing where we're actually just curating everyone's journeys at an individual level,
Mhm.
determining kind of what the best next message to send them is and building that, journey along the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Which is a good segue into let's talk about creatives and those journeys. And so before we jump into ideas and where we want to go, maybe let's take a moment to vent on what's going on with creatives. Why does it suck? Why does the experience suck today? What are things that you would want to see, but they're just not possible for various reasons? So just,
I think what sucks today is that creative is super resource intensive in terms of the lifecycle programs. We are managing many different types of lifecycle columns. There's the automations piece, which is kind of like these longer journeys that we build strategy for and we create from a creative perspective. That's a whole kind of month, 2 month process to even build one
okay.
journey because you need to think through kind of what the experience is like, how do we make the creative cohesive, and then actually time to write the copy, time to design it. And so it's a very, very fragmented, very, very long process right now to build these individual journeys that are like 10 emails long.
Mm.
And we also have the batch campaign process, right? Where it's creating a calendar of emails that you want to send out that are seasonal, promotional, offer based, things like that, that are oftentimes fighting for the resources. And so when it comes to leadership, they love to see the short-term
Okay.
dollars. And so oftentimes the batch campaigns are prioritized over the
Mhm.
automations. And so you start to see stagnation in automations where all the resources are now working so hard to pump out daily
Yes.
emails or, emails 3 times a week that are seasonal, bespoke, super heavy, creative intensive, and basically sucks all the resources
Mhm.
out of the program. Whereas actually, when we come in with clients or even our in-house career, a lot of the incrementality that can be found in a lifecycle program is within the automations bucket.
Yes. Yeah.
So oftentimes you'll see the ratio is that automations are driving like less than 10% of the volume in terms of email sends, but drive over 50% of the conversions. And then the batch campaigns are setting over 90% of the volume, but then only serve 50% of the conversions. And so it's like the more bang for the buck, the more juice for the squeeze is definitely in optimizing automations because you have the high intent targeting, like the abandoned carts, the welcome series, like all these types of targeting that you can do that's automated, that's based off of user behaviors that triggers that now is the best time to send to them versus doing the shotgun approach of a batch campaign that sends to everyone, even though it might not be relevant.
What do you think if that's the number, right? Like automations drive so much more conversion, but only 10-20% of your campaigns are automated. Is it
Mhm.
purely that leadership wants to see quick numbers and you can send these ad hoc blasts and see them? Or is there other reasons why? Or maybe it takes time or people are used to a certain setup? What do you think is the reason why that ratio hasn't quite evolved over time?
I think batch campaigns are just a lot easier to prove out that drive conversion
For
and
sure.
can really build up a lifecycle program. And oftentimes, people who are building lifecycle programs need to show value to even build a business case to invest in new tools. And it's really interesting because, paying 40K a year for a platform is more scrutinized than spending millions of dollars a year on Facebook ads, right? And so our team is oftentimes having to really fight and build value for the program before we even get something that we are building a business case for. And so it's a trade-off, right? Like you're trying to make leadership happy, you're trying to make sure the lifecycle program is growing. And batch cons are usually the fastest way to do that because you're sending it to everyone and you're basically getting as many conversions as you can. But the reason why automations work so well is because they're targeted and you can personalize the message based off
Mhm.
of the individual user or the segment that
Yeah.
is a lot more higher converting. The automations are automated, you don't have to touch them again because once you have it live for the first time, it'll just generate revenue for you. But oftentimes people don't realize that a lot of value can actually be extracted from those if you continue to optimize and personalize.
And then you were mentioning a bunch of different issues with creative, everything from how they're fragmented or there's too much that has to be churned out every week, every day. But let's dig a layer deeper there. Do you think, and I'll throw some ideas, do you think it's specifically emails that are designed with like rich HTML, or it's the idea of emails versus push versus SMS? All these different channels have different needs.
Yeah.
And or do you think it's aspects of of an email? So let's say it's the image itself, where the rest of it is easy, right? Like, how do you, if you had to think about like the pains in creatives and specifically, how would you stack rank those?
Yeah, I think in terms of, I would say like the most heavy intensive things that oftentimes take the most work are the seasonal campaigns because you're having to build it from an integrated marketing perspective, right? Like you're planning what the campaign is. You might have to actually build assets for those, shoot assets for those. At Casper, we did this a lot where we manually did photo shoots for every season, which the creative was amazing. Casper was known for their brand and the amazing creative that they did, but it was oftentimes planned 6 months in advance to even get that campaign out.
Wow.
And so it's really heavily intensive and really heavily bespoke, which if you add up the hours, like that's really inefficient. I think oftentimes what's really difficult is how do you actually translate the strategy into the final creative that you actually envisioned? And
Mhm.
so oftentimes my team or any in-house strategy team will create a brief of a batch campaign or a flow that says, hey, this is our goal. We wanted to achieve this by including this messaging and they kind of give
Mhm.
explicit details about what they want in the emails. But then oftentimes when it's given to the copywriter team, it loses translation and sometimes it's hard to fit everything into one email and then the copy is then translated into the design which is like and then the end product is kind of like the first draft of the end product is nothing that the strategy team envisioned and so there's oftentimes a lot of back and forth for feedback rounds and there's updates of copy. The lifecycle marketer is balancing the strategy, the conversion goal, and the best practices of emails, whereas the copywriter and design teams
Mhm.
oftentimes not specialized in email marketing. And so it's oftentimes on the lifecycle marketers and to be able to say, hey, we should have a CTA here at the top above the fold or below the fold. And there's just so many best practices that we need to be on top of that we need to share with the team. And so you go through all this process of 5 rounds of feedback. And
Yeah.
so I would say that's one of the main big bottlenecks of having this creative
Yeah, it's the
process.
classic, the handing over customer asked for this, the product managers
Yeah,
thought that, engineers.
exactly. Exactly. And the more
Uh,
stakeholders you include, the more unruly it gets. It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And then let's talk about stack. So I know when we think creative, tools like Figma would come to mind, right? Like, how do you create rich creatives? Sometimes it's very Figma first, other times it's
Mhm.
let's just go create it in our ESP directly. Other times it's just a brief and we'll like take our existing templates, right? And of
Yeah.
course, in the future, maybe using AI. But talk to me a little bit about the stack itself.
Yeah. I would say Figma has unlocked so much for the creative aspect of lifecycle marketing. Because before, like I think even 5 years ago, organizations were creating their emails in Photoshop and Illustrator, and these tools are very bespoke. Like you're building kind of dedicated emails individually, and then they slice them out for it. The designer will slice out the images for you and export them so you can build the templates.
Right.
But that alone is very manual, and you need skilled and talented Photoshop designers to be able to do that. Now with Figma, there are so many, since it's UX based, there are so many features that you can use that make the process a lot more efficient. One thing that we do at Verbose is we build what we call email design systems for all of the clients that we onboard onto. And what that means is essentially we use Figma's component feature
Mm,
to be able to build and dissect email templates into individual modules. And so we
right.
have a whole library of modules that we have over 50, 100 modules per brand that are categorized into hero modules, CTA modules, listicle modules, or any type of use case that you'll think of that you will need a module or you want to test for. We'll build individual modules for that, which streamlines the process because not only does it get approved by brand and design and everyone's aligned that if you use this module, it's in brand and we don't need to change anything with it. You can now do this kind of like drag and drop Lego block builder of templates that's pre-approved already and build a wireframe for 10 emails super quickly in 30 minutes versus building individual 10 emails in Photoshop, which used to take days or weeks to do. You can translate the design system to be for drag and drop, or if you're doing pure HTML customization, we can code each individual module into HTML where you can actually just stack the code on top of each other
Right.
and easily build it within the platform itself.
We'll talk through our ideal world. And again, this could be hot takes, so it doesn't have to be something that everybody aligns with. Let's talk about what is your ideal scenario. If you had everything, you had a magic wand, you had all the blessings of AI, whatnot, what would that ideal world look like? Huh.
As a strategist, I would fully embrace AI if it made my job easier because I think that enables us to focus a lot more on the strategy of it all. Like, what is the customer experience we want to build? What are their core KPIs that we can move? And then my ideal situation would be to give everything that I could, and that's pre-approved, that's like on brand to AI and have them bespoke build an individual journey for users along the way that's dynamic across their first acquisition, across post-purchase series, across re-engagement, engagement, and then win back in churn. Can AI actually build that journey for me in an orchestrated flow versus me having to hard code in a journey for each of those core segments that like is the way that I think or our hypothesis is to build a customer experience for them.
Okay.
Obviously, I think it's going to take maybe a while until we get to that point where we fully trust it. But I do believe that AI is going to help us really rapidly get there really quickly. I think within even the next year or two, where we
Mhm.
can start to see the output be very efficient, effective in the results that's performing, and then just give the reins to the AI where we will have kind of manual improvement or even automated approval of the assets that go out or the messaging that goes out with it.
I want to peel some layers there. What is the sort of handoff point for you in terms of approvals? Where would you be comfortable saying, I've reviewed this. Now AI, I trust you and assume AI, is 100% better than what it is today. Like where, yeah.
Yeah, I think if I were to take the use case of creative and our email design system specifically, if I could actually take the module library that I have of 50 to 100 individual modules that, again, we can assign criteria to, where like this is always and only a hero module. This is always only a footer module at the bottom, and there's like different variations that the AI can choose from. And then the AI can automatically just like build templates that are again pre-approved, pre-brand approved because we went through that process up front. and build those templates out automatically to see kind of like what's the best creative that performs best, what's the best template, what's the best CTA color. If AI can do that and test it against thousands of users and determine like out of hundreds of thousands of tests within a given week, we saw that this color worked best with this template and whatnot, and just have that built dynamically, then that would be my ideal process. I think
Mm.
where it gets tricky is the messaging of it all. Like, do we actually trust AI to actually build a post-purchase journey that says, "Hey, thank you for purchasing. Here are the things that you'll need to be successful," and dynamically build that for each individual user? I don't know if we're there yet. I don't know if we trust it yet. But again, I think as we train the model and build these variants and test them, I think over time it could learn that over the first 30 days, if your goal is to drive, more engagement or more conversion, because we know it leads to more retention, that it'll start to build these dynamic templates that help you achieve your goal. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what we want is to increase the KPIs with incremental conversions or incremental engagement, and then two is not get in trouble. So making sure the creative is in line, making sure the legal, aspects of things are in line, that they're not saying things that they shouldn't, that they're not.
Something I think about a lot is how user expectations would also change. So what that would look
Mm,
like is, as a user, I probably know 80% of the times my content is built by AI. And so I
mm,
have more forgiveness and room like I'm more
yeah.
okay. Once in a while, it messes up. It's okay as long as most of the times it's giving me what I want to see, right?
Mm,
Like it's sort of automatically helping me get rid of the spam. So it's right now
yeah.
AI feel content overload, but in the future it should feel like it's the right content that literally that something that I was looking for, and I'm able to see exactly that and nothing more.
Exactly. It's like I mean, it's better, honestly, to me, the days where we're still manually sending emails that in the subject line says parentheses, parentheses, first underscore name, parentheses, parentheses, and it's a
Yeah.
mistake that goes out. But if AI is able to actually handle that and make sure that there's no mistakes that are like that we can avoid. QA is also a huge place where I think AI can help a lot as well, because it's all manual right now. It's all human based. And so if they can actually audit these emails and say, hey, this is URL is broken, or this image is broken, or this doesn't look, this is
Mhm.
spelled incorrectly, can actually avoid a lot of the mistakes that obviously I
It's
think a lot of
true.
us have done in our careers. I
Yeah.
remember my second week into Zilili as a fresh college graduate, I accidentally double sent the email to 20 million users, and I got a
Goodness.
call at 6 a.m. from Carlos. He was like, "Fee, what the F did you do?" And so avoiding those types of mistakes, I think, is always valuable for a team. And the only thing that I would say is that that day we actually doubled revenue. So, double sending an email
There you
was
go.
actually a good idea.
That's a good story. And I guess as we talk about, where AI is going, whatnot, I know you and I are in the weeds of AI and what its capabilities are. A lot of marketers out there are just getting started and they're thinking, cool, all these ideas are really
Yeah.
cool. But how do I bring it back into my day to day? How do I actually even take small steps to see
Mm.
what it can do for me? What are your tips for them? Where do they get started? What does a successful pilot look like for them? How do they measure success?
Firstly, I think getting started is using any type of generative platform right now, like ChatGPT, Claude, whatever platform it is. I think people are already slowly, incrementally adding it into their workflow and finding extreme value out of that piece. And so it's a great brainstorm partner, in my opinion. I think a great way to also leverage it is how do I set up an A/B test? How do I properly test this? What's a good hypothesis? Pump in a brief, say, hey, can you do a testing framework and brief for me? And it will walk you through that thought process, because a lot of times I think lifecycle marketers have a hard time thinking through testing framework and how do I actually learn from this test versus just testing it and rolling it out and not really understanding why this color
Mhm.
works or why this
Mhm.
messaging works. And so leveraging it that way. And so I would say slowly do that and find value from there. And then start to think through, okay, this is great. How do I actually incorporate it into the actual lifecycle program itself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. I love all of those tips. Like, just get started somewhere, right? Like, throw in some idea. When it comes to creative, where do you think AI is already helping? So, for example, ideas for subject lines. And where do you think it needs to get more advanced and it's not there yet, specifically for creatives?
I think first, to to really get optimized and incorporated into people's workflows with copy. Like oftentimes I actually see a lot of the brands that come in already have a trained copy bot on their
Oh yeah.
brand, and they can have a first draft of copy pretty much generated immediately if you just input your brief. I've worked with copywriters. Our copywriters really appreciate that first draft because it gives them a better expectation and alignment of what we're
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
And they can work off of that to create more brand focused or more, add more humor into it. That makes sense because one thing that ChatGPT or AI hasn't the perfected yet is humor, I feel like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, especially in copywriting. And
Yeah.
so, our copywriters, I think, become more strategical on how we inject the messaging more into the copy versus building it from scratch. So they become even more efficient and they are not out of jobs yet because I think having more strategy focus, more art direction in terms of the messaging and the design has become more valuable because we need to be able to train the AI on what we want.
We see the same. Of course, on one side, marketers are empowered to not have to depend on creative teams, but at the same time, when we have creative
Yeah,
folks using the
yeah,
tool, they get very excited because they can prompt it well. They know exactly what to ask.
exactly.
Like they play with it a lot more than we'd
Yeah,
imagine.
exactly.
On the topic of AI, creative, whatnot, there's always these buzzwords around, right? Like agentic AI, personalization, whatnot. Um, Maybe give us an example or two on where you've seen AI successfully get embedded into your lifecycle marketing platforms. And I know you work with a bunch of companies as well, right? As you think through embed AI. And it's okay if it's early as well, but I'm curious, what are some use cases that you think are spot on? AI is
Yeah.
doing a really decent job, and companies are creating value out of it.
Personalization is key. And personalization is the end goal, which I agree with. I think everyone should have a bespoke journey. We should be building the best customer journeys that we can for each individual user that makes sense for them. And oftentimes, what that equates to is a team of 5 data scientists building affinity models, recommendation models, and building V1 models that we need to test and continually iterate on. That leverages machine learning and now I think AI components of AI as well to learn what the best message is for users. And so I would say that's how I've interacted with a lot of the bigger brands nowadays since I've been the ones ushering that kind of component of personalization. And there wasn't a tool out there that could do that for us out of the box that was
Right.
easy to integrate. I think where I'm very, very intrigued and bullish and like we're starting to test in a lot of clients is AI decisioning.
Mhm.
Obviously, Just Words is a big proponent of the pilot programs that we're doing as well, and that we're driving to test and try to add value for our clients. But I think AI decisioning is that inflection point. I think there are a lot of other AI tools out there that help with deliverability, that help with creative
Yeah.
optimizations. But I truly think with lifecycle marketing, the engine that's going to run all of that is going to be the decisioning form and the decisioning engine. I think it's going to be the next kind of marketing automation platform in a way.
Yeah.
In the short term, it's going to augment. We're going to be layering AI decisioning on top of our Braves, iterables, our customer dios.
Of
I
course.
think there will be a way where in 2 years, when we fully trust and have trained the LLM truly to the brand and the creative and the messaging, that we could hand it the keys, give it some guardrails, but have it run with the testing and the creative creation, the messaging, and also the KPI optimization, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so if I give it the goal of increasing, click-through rate or even signups by 25%, it should take that goal and basically run with it and test as many things as it can to get us to that point.
Totally. And I guess a tactical question on AI decisioning, do you assume orchestration to be a part of it, or is that separate and you imagine ESPs to manage that while AI decisioning sits on top of it? Um, Delays, whatnot.
I actually think frequency and cadence is one of the first things to go. And I think one of the first things that brands would feel most comfortable to give up, actually, because
Really?
everyone's thinking, why are we sending this message on a Monday or why are we sending this on a Thursday? And teams
Right.
will A/B test it, but it's always so one off and you don't really get that many learnings from it unless you do it like 10 times in
Yeah.
a row.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
uh, and I've seen us do manual A/B tests of like shrinking an abandoned cart delay from 3 days to 1 day equate to like 75% plus incremental gains in conversion rate. And so it's also another low-hanging fruit thing that like can actually add so much value by just optimizing the time that it sends.
That's okay.
Um,
Interesting. Yeah.
I think where what would be interesting to see is how it actually takes flow and optimizes cadence. Like, how do you know out of a five touch point series that the first three should go out day after day, and then it goes to like a 2 day cadence? Like, how do you know what it
Mhm.
does and figure out that message? And I think I don't know if that it can do that today, or if it requires some manual intervention to be able to make sure that they do it within a
Yeah.
constraint
Yeah.
timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And that's a hairy topic too, right? Because do you define that cadence? Maybe you don't even need the concept of cadence, whatnot. um,
Like, how is it not determining that like a year out is the best time to send the next message, and now you're waiting a year to get that message out, right? So it's like, how do you build that balance?
Right, right. Awesome. Well, I want to spend some time on your hot takes, and you already started on some. So let's do a little bit of a rapid fire. Just your quick opinions, your predictions. You don't have to overthink this one. Okay, cool. Are you ready? Uh,
Yes, I think so.
okay, food or sleep?
Bananas. I don't know why I just said that.
Okay, food. So you would prioritize food over sleep.
I haven't had breakfast yet, and I need some potassium.
Oh my
And
God.
so,
Okay, you should
yeah,
eat. All right.
yeah.
Um, would you bet on a futuristic, bold bet? So it could be slow right now, but it's massive impact, like you said, maybe in a year's time. Or would you optimize for speed? So you want to see quick results with AI. Um,
Mostly big bets for me, but it goes against my strategy of balancing both big bets and short-term gains at the same time. But if I were to choose one or the other, I like to focus on big bets because I feel like it's a lot more strategical and it's thinking long-term about the customer experience and how you want to shape it and evolve it over time. Whereas short-term gains, they're great in the short term for conversion and can actually have compound interest effect,
Mhm.
where small wins over small wins actually equate to long-term huge wins. And so for our strategy, we always balance both in our roadmap and always make sure there's room for both. But for me, since if I were ideal world, like if I were to fully focus on one thing, it would be big bets and big
Like
swings
that.
because I
Yeah,
like to push the envelope on things.
love that. One AI dystopia that keeps you up at night.
Skynet, I think, AI taking over and destroying our world. I've already seen a lot of my family and friends use AI as like therapists.
Yep, yep, yep.
But like I think us listening to AI and being objective about it is really concerning to me. I feel like as you ask questions of AI, it trains on you and shows you what you want to hear. And so you might be thinking it's a third party objective opinion, but it's actually not. It's actually curated to what you want it to sound like and what you want it to say. And so my fear is that one day we're all going to be listening to AI thinking that it's the right thing to do, but it might not be because it's just solely trained on what we want to hear.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's so true.
Yeah.
Um, M dashes or unleash.
Oh my gosh. Dashes because like for me, I I feel like I feel like dash is not a triggering word for me because even if I say going forward, remove all dashes from all of my text, it responds with a paragraph with dashes in it. I'm like, what is going on here? Why is AI adding dashes to every single response? And and so
Yeah,
I would say dash because this is gonna be my way to come up with a campaign to remove dashes from the world.
yeah, nice. Love that. Yes or no? Will Journey Map and CRMs exist in the next 5 years?
Yes,
Okay.
only because that meaning could be shifted
Mhm.
and defined differently in 5 years. But I do think the framework of a customer journey map and a customer journey is always going to be there, and it should always be there because the focus of that should be just to create the best experience possible for a user
Mhm.
and to be able to follow their journey with us.
Yeah, yeah, and to have
Yeah,
have control on the strategy, right? Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Last couple questions. Does AI replace a data scientist? Yes or no?
No, and I actually don't know if that's the right answer because I'm giving out hope for humanity and that we will all have a role in this world and have jobs in the next 5 years, which, I think is everyone's hope. But I do think to that fact that AI is going to make everyone's life a lot easier. It's going to make everyone's role more strategic. But
Mhm.
inherently with creative, we're already seeing these roles become a lot more strategic and the architects. these journeys versus becoming the tactical executors of it.
Yeah, sounds. Last question. If you were to angel invest in AI and marketing, what's a no-brainer bet? Where would you drop your first check?
Are you guys open to angel investing right now?
First one.
Because how much do you need?
Never happened.
I would say again, like I'm completely bullish on AI decisioning as that inflection point, and I think all the next marketing platforms are going to try to build some type of version of this. And I think the people who win are going to be the platforms that have it built in a seamless way, or have it be the main engine that drives the orchestration and the dynamic templates that happen. And so AI decisioning, I would say, is what I'm super bullish on and what I would write a check on.
Not that. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll send you the details right after.
Yes. Please do.
Awesome. Well, that's a really good note to end. But yeah, we talked about everything from the history of marketing. We went into problems with creative and just automations and so on. And then also got really good tips and predictions on where AI is going to take it. Thank you so much, Fee. Any last thoughts before we wrap?
I'm still thinking about writing the check. I still have the
That's
check
okay.
on my,
That's your last thought.
um, no, yeah, that's my last. I'll end it there.
I love that. Well, if you enjoyed this conversation, follow our show and share it with somebody who's ready to get practical about AI and marketing. I'm Neha, and we'll see you next time with more real stories, real results, and a little bit of fluff. Thanks, Fee.
Exactly. All right. Thanks, Neha. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.